A great watch isn't just about the price. It's about how it feels on your wrist. The weight, the design, and the way the dial catches your eye every time you check the time. In 2026, there are watches under $1,000 that deliver the same satisfaction you'd expect from much more expensive pieces. Today, we're looking at 10 watches that feel far more expensive than they really are. Number 10. Seiko Prospex SPB 155. Sumo. Ask someone who owns a Sumo to describe it, and they will almost always start with the same word. Presence. Not size, presence. The wide cushion case, the steeply domed bezel, the deep dial with its bold indices catching light from angles that flat dials cannot reach. The Sumo creates a wrist experience so physically immediate and so visually commanding that people standing next to you notice it before you've said anything about it. The 6R35 movement delivers 70 hours of power reserve with a reliability that Seiko has been refining for decades. The lume application is generous and long-lasting in a way that makes checking the time in a dark room feel like discovering something. None of that is what surprises people. What surprises them is how, wearing a watch at this price, they find themselves reaching for it over considerably more expensive alternatives day after day, without fully understanding why, until they hold something that costs 5 times more and realize that the Sumo already gave them everything the expensive watch is only now delivering. Number 9. Tissot Gentleman. Powermatic 80 Silicium. The silicone hairspring inside the Tissot Gentleman Powermatic 80E Silicium is a detail that most wearers will never see and will feel every single day. A component so resistant to magnetic interference, so stable across temperature variations, and so precisely engineered that Swiss watchmakers charge significant premiums for it at every price point above this one. That it appears here, in a dress watch priced well under $1,000, is the kind of decision that makes Tissot's engineering philosophy genuinely admirable rather than merely competent. The case finishing is immaculate. The dial strikes a balance between formal elegance and daily wearability that dress watches at 3 times the price frequently fail to achieve. And the 80-hour power reserve means the watch survives a watchless weekend with enough reserve to carry through Monday without interruption. Every element of the Gentleman Silicium communicates considered serious Swiss watchmaking. The price communicates something else, that Tissot believes extraordinary quality should be available to anyone who wants it. In 2026, that belief is worth rewarding. Number 8. Orient Star Classic Semi-Skeleton. The semi-skeleton dial is one of watchmaking's most theatrical gestures, the decision to cut away part of the dial and let the movement beneath speak for itself. When it's done badly, it looks gimmicky. When it's done, as Orient does it here, it looks like the most honest and beautiful thing a watch can do. Show you exactly what it is without a single element of pretense. The F6F44 in-house movement with its hand-winding capability and hacking seconds creates a connection between wearer and mechanism that sealed case watches at 5 times this price cannot offer. The alternating brushed and polished case surfaces catch light with the kind of precision that speaks to genuine finishing care rather than cosmetic polish. In a quiet room, you can hear it tick. A small, regular, completely satisfying sound that reminds you, several times a day, that something extraordinary is happening on your wrist. The Orient Star Classic Semi-Skeleton costs what it costs and feels like considerably more. That gap in 2026 is one of the best secrets in watchmaking. Number 7. Hamilton Jazzmaster. Viewmatic. Hamilton's Jazzmaster line has always occupied an interesting space. Watches that understand elegance without being captured by it. Dress pieces that carry enough personality to be interesting without being eccentric. The Viewmatic is the line at its most confident. An open-heart complication mounted in a case sized perfectly for the formal occasions that demand something refined and the everyday wear that demands something durable. The balance wheel visible through the dial beats at a rhythm that you will find yourself watching for longer than you planned, in moments that have nothing to do with checking the time. The bracelet, or leather strap depending on your configuration, sits on the wrist with a wearing quality that makes the watch feel like it was adjusted for your specific arm rather than manufactured to a standard dimension. In 2026, the Jazzmaster Viewmatic is the watch that Hamilton collectors quietly consider the most underrated piece in the entire collection. Wearing it for a week, you will stop being surprised by that assessment and start being grateful for it. Number 6. Longines Record Automatic. There are watches that keep good time. There are watches that keep very good time. And then there is the Longines Record Automatic, a watch designed from the outset around the COSC chronometer certification that its movement carries, built with an anti-magnetic silicon balance spring and tuned to a standard of daily accuracy that most watches at twice the price cannot approach. The case is Longines at its most refined. Clean lines, proportions that work equally well under a cuff or over a shirt, a finishing quality that rewards the kind of close inspection that lesser watches cannot survive. The dial has a depth and sophistication that the photographs consistently underestimate, something that only becomes clear when natural light moves across it and reveals a complexity of texture and reflection that flat images simply cannot transmit. Wearing the Record Automatic, the feeling that settles over you, the sense that you are wearing something that was made with genuine care by people who understood exactly what they were building, is the same feeling that watches costing 5 times more produce. Here, it costs considerably less. Number 5. Seiko Presage SPB 161 Enamel Dial. There is a threshold in watchmaking where price ceases to be the relevant variable, and craft becomes the only question that matters. And the SPB 161 crosses that threshold so completely that people who have never cared about watches hold it in a dealer's display room and find themselves asking, genuinely and without pretense, how something this beautiful is possible at this price. The white porcelain enamel dial is produced through a traditional craft involving the firing of ceramic compounds at extreme temperatures, a process that creates a surface with luminosity and depth that no modern printing or paint process can replicate or approach. The 6R35 automatic movement inside runs for 70 hours and keeps time with Seiko's characteristic understated precision. On the wrist, dressed up or down, the SPB 161 produces reactions from people who know nothing about watches and everything about beautiful things. Those reactions, the pause, the lean in, the quiet request to hold it, are the same ones that $5,000 dress watches produce in exactly the same people. The only difference is the number on the price tag. Number 4. Frederique Constant. Classics Automatic Heartbeat. Geneva is a word that carries weight in watchmaking, a city that has functioned as the capital of horological ambition for centuries, producing movements and finishing standards that the rest of the industry measures itself against. Frederique Constant is a Geneva manufacturer, a genuine, complete, independent Swiss watchmaker, and the Classics Automatic Heartbeat is the watch that makes that provenance accessible to the buyer who has always deserved it. The open heart complication frames the visible balance wheel in a way that makes the act of checking the time feel like a small ceremony, a moment of genuine mechanical theater that watches at 5 times this price stage with less elegance and no more sincerity. The case proportions hit a formal-to-casual versatility that dress watches at this level frequently miss in one direction or the other. And the overall wearing experience, the weight, the quality of contact, the sense that the watch was made by someone who cared about the person who would eventually wear it, is indistinguishable from what $5,000 buys. That is not an exaggeration. It is a precise and considered observation. Number 3. Tudor Black Bay 58. There are watches priced under $1,000 that feel like more. And then there is the Tudor Black Bay 58, which sits at the very top of this price category and delivers something that transcends the comparison entirely. A watch so thoroughly, completely, and uncomplicatedly right that the question of what it costs becomes genuinely irrelevant the moment it settles on your wrist. The 39mm case was sized with a precision that makes it sit perfectly on a range of wrist sizes that the larger sports watches of 2026 frequently exclude. The domed crystal adds a vintage warmth that modern flat sapphire trades away for scratch resistance and loses something irreplaceable in the exchange. The in-house movement runs for 70 hours with the reliability of something built by people who take the concept of mechanical dependability personally. Wearing the BB58, the thought that occurs, the thought that keeps occurring day after day in the years after the purchase, is not that it punches above its price. It is simply that it is excellent. That's all. That's everything. Number 2. Grand Seiko SBG X261. Reading about Grand Seiko finishing prepares you for nothing. The articles are accurate. The photographs are honest. The descriptions of Zaratsu polishing and snowflake-inspired dials and the particular light of the Shinshu Highlands are all technically correct. None of it prepares you for the physical experience of holding a Grand Seiko case in your hands and seeing your own reflection in a surface the size of your thumbnail, perfectly undistorted, looking back at you from a piece of machined steel. That moment, and it is a moment, specific and unrepeatable, changes something in how you understand quality. The SBG X261 has a white textured dial that creates the impression of standing inside early morning fog and a 9F quartz movement delivering annual accuracy of plus or minus 10 seconds, which makes the concept of mechanical chronometer certification look generously defined. At the top of the under 1,000 bracket, it sits in a category of 1. Not almost in the conversation with $5,000 watches, actually in it, contributing to it, holding its own, occasionally winning it outright. Number 1. Tudor Black Bay, 98 Navy Blue. Every list has a watch that ends it, an answer so complete that everything before it becomes context rather than competition. The Tudor Black Bay 58. Navy blue is that watch, and in 2026, its position at the top of every list like this one is not the result of momentum or habit or the kind of consensus that forms around things that are merely very good. It is the result of being, genuinely and measurably, and in ways that every person who has worn it will confirm without prompting, one of the most extraordinary wearing experiences available at any price point in the modern watch market. The dial is a color that shifts between deep ocean and midnight, depending on the light and the hour and the angle from which you look, and it never looks the same twice in a way that never stops being surprising. The warm lume glows with a richness that connects you to something timeless. The bracelet or NATO strap, either always, sits with a perfection that makes the watch feel made for your specific wrist rather than manufactured to a demographic. Under $1,000 feels like $5, wears like a decision you'll never question. This is the one,